An assist over the last weekend. So, I mean, just talk about her development, what you've seen from her, especially over this year, because, I mean, as you come in as a freshman, there's going to be ups and downs, but what have you seen her do this year that's different?
I think she's done a better job, and it's not to say she wasn't good before, but she does a better job of embracing her teammates and trying to meet them where they are and understanding that component. Once we changed our philosophy a little bit and had Ryan start talking to her about it, about choices and whatnot, and just plays to run, I think that has helped her a lot because her brain is always going because she wants to be the best. And so sometimes her emotions would get ahead of her and wouldn't allow her to be the best version of herself.
Um, I was looking at, just projections today, and some people thinking you may be getting a national seed in the tournament. Just how do you feel about the way things are progressing in that extent?
I'm proud of the team in terms of just staying focused to the task at hand. And what I keep telling them every match we play, there's a lot of volleyball left to be played. So don't want to take anything for granted. And, honestly, I get the RPI, KPI, I look at those, but it is just what it is until they actually, that Sunday when we see our name up there.
I was looking at what had you projected as an 8, but against Nebraska. I mean, it's just, you don't care about that, right? Just get there.
Correct. I mean, we still have 5 matches left to be played, and we have one match tomorrow. And so that's I want to just keep the players focused on that piece and let everyone else around us kind of worry about the other stuff.
And I mean, ASU, I think they've only lost one in league play, right? So what do you have to do different?
ASU is a great team. I think that they just get better in what they do. I don't see them doing a lot of things differently, and honestly, they don't need to because it sort of works. But in the last couple of matches a couple areas have been vulnerable. And so our goal is to be able to capitalize on that as well as just identifying what it is. But I don't think that we necessarily did a great job last time. I was back watching film with the staff. I don't know that we necessarily did a great job in our middle attacking last time. I thought we were average as blockers, and that's not to put it down because ASU is a good team. They're going to cause you to look different and do some things a little bit differently. But I want us to be in better control of what we're doing and not worry about what they're doing to us.
When you think about how JJ's turned around that program from outside, what do you see that he's done that's, I mean, brought such a dramatic difference to them?
Well, partly is that he's bringing in transfers, and so the experienced older player that understands and don't have to worry about that, what they're going to do on a daily basis. But I do understand he has a good relationship with the players in terms of making sure they're on the right page and they're in the right place, the right headspace, which, you commend a coach for being able to do that because I know it's a lot of work, and it's okay. We're sort of kind of somewhat paid to do that. But at the end of the day, his ability to bring in transfers has been the biggest piece. But it says a lot because he can get them on the same page. And so you can't slight that.
And how hard is that to get people on the same page quickly?
Well, depending on where their development level is, it could be fast or it could be slow. At the end of the day, you want it in the right place when it matters. So the day-to-day is slow. But when you look at it from beginning to end, that process is pretty exciting. I equate it to having a kid. When they're newborn, that day-to-day is like, oh my gosh, please, this is hard. And then you go turn around, it's like a year has gone by, or 2 years have gone by. So I equate it to that.
And as far as your program, these 3 years, each year has been a step forward. For you, what's gone into that?
A lot of it is just staying true to what our ultimate goal is, our focus. I think being able to keep a constant, for example, with Ryan, I was listening to, I don't know who I was listening to, it was one of the matches I was watching, and they were saying how the successful programs are successful because they're able to keep their staff intact. I think that's part of it. I also think that because I don't have any fears in terms of I get fired, I get fired. Do I want to get fired? No. But I don't allow that to be my driving force as to what I do. And so try to duplicate that and, give that to the players as well. And then the other piece is just recruiting. You want players to come in here that are coachable, players that are going to be great competitors, and then everything else will work from there. And that part is a little tough because there's a lot of kids out there that I think could come in here and make a impact on our program, but until you're constantly in the top 25, until you're a constant mainstay in the NCAA tournament, they may hesitate just a little bit. But I like to tell everyone I have a lot of people in my phone that, will talk to me that first time. So we're making progress.
And we saw Brenna this week not only be great on defense, but she was still like one of the top 10 receivers. What have you seen from her?
My little gym rat. There's no highs and lows with Brenna. That's what makes her very good at that position. She understands that she's in the second most important position on the floor, and she just does it. She takes the blame for a lot of balls that may not necessarily be hers, but the confidence that the others have in her in terms of being able to go get a ball has grown. And I think that helps her in terms of what she's doing. It's like, okay, I'm free to go get that ball, or they know I'm going to be there with that trust factor. And that's part of who we're trying to be, what I'm trying to build as a program.
And I assume Jordan's fine.
Jordan's fine, yes.
What are you going to see over these last 5 weeks? I mean, I know, or last 5 matches, I know, tournament, but as far as what your team is doing on the court.
I want us to continue to get better in terms of being a unit, being that person that can tell someone on the floor that they need to pick it up, or realizing that they're struggling and someone else comes in and say, hey, I got you, for this time being, but I need you to come back and be a part of what's going on right now. And then I want us not to be afraid of the moment. I want us to enjoy it, and I get texts all the time saying, Rita, just enjoy this. Are you excited right now? I'm like, yeah, for the next 30 seconds or the next 30 minutes. And so I believe that I have to be able to give that to the players and allow them to kind of breathe and enjoy it, but then be ready for the next task, because each time I've put an obstacle in front of them, I believe we've risen to the challenge.
And not specifically about recruits or signing, but what is the recruiting process like in volleyball, since people, like in basketball, it's right before they sign, most of them commit, but these are committing as soon as they're, most of them as soon as they're able. So what is that process like, getting ready for that?
I have a love-hate relationship with volleyball players committing early, because you just don't know. And, there could be times when you miss out on a kid because they're not what you think at that time. And then a year later, you're like, oh my gosh, a kid has blown up. And so there's a lot of games that have to be played with that, as well as the fact with the transfer portal, you have to just always be ready because you don't know what you need. But when I look at our team and look at what we've done and what works for us and what doesn't work for us, that helps me out a little bit more, saying, okay, this is the piece we need. We need a person that can specifically do this. And so as we were talking to the different clubs and high schools and whatnot, we're asking those very frank questions. What is she like in the gym? What is she going to be like if she doesn't play? How is she coming off the bench? How is she as a starter? And in the past, I don't know that we necessarily asked those questions as clearly as, we just try to come up with that answer on our own. Now I'm asking.
Do you find people are frank or not?
Certain clubs, you have a relationship with them and they go, Rita, this kid can play for you, or nah, she can't play for you. And so I tend to believe them more when they say that they can't play for me versus whether they can, because unless you're in a gym with me on a daily basis, you don't really know. You know what you see when we compete, and you know what you may know about me in the past, but until you're in the gym on a daily basis, I don't think anyone can really answer that this kid is the kid for you. Now, if she's 6'3" and touches 10'4", sure, she meets that athletic prerequisite, but what is she going to be like to work with? What is her brain like? Is she going to be coachable? Because to me, if you're coachable and accountable, we'll have the best of times, and I will be the funniest person you know. But if you slack in either one of those areas, I'm going to be that vision of, oh, she's judging or evaluating, or she doesn't, all those things that have nothing to do with anything really, but you'll hear them use those terms, and that's what's scary to me because that part is irrelevant.
And when you talk about kind of those late bloomers or people who ran into issues in their high school career that maybe kept them from being recruited, maybe Journey, Renee talked to me about her diabetes and how that kind of, threw some wrenches in. So are those the kind of players you're talking about that you brought in, and how have you seen them develop after, not getting the kind of recruiting they maybe wanted?
Well, I don't know what someone wants other than what they see others have, but everyone's journey is a little bit different. And so try to remind them of that piece. But once we form a relationship with them, it is to cultivate that relationship, to let them know that you're wanted here because of A, B, or C. You're going to add value to this program because of A, B, or C. Don't worry about the fact that you didn't get to make that hype video or you didn't get to make the decision on June 15th, because I don't think it's really necessary, but I am an older person, so I tend not to think that way. But once they get here, is to celebrate them and talk about them and share their story as much as possible. And then that gives them that bit of satisfaction that they sometimes are seeking.
And in their development here, I mean, Renee is making an impact already. Journey, obviously. What do you think it was about those players that they're able to do that?
I think it was the belief in them, that someone believed that, okay, you had this adversity for whatever the reason, but you still want me, you still like me, you still think I can add value. I come in and I'm a little afraid, because both were. When they came in, it was like, did I make the right decision? And it's just constantly reassuring them. But more importantly, having the right people around them where they didn't have to come in and prove themselves on day one. As much as they wanted to, sometimes, it doesn't work that way. There's a lot of things in life I want. So just having the right pieces around, and that's why it's like a puzzle. You can take this kid over here, but you can't have a team full of that kid. Or you can take this kid over here, but you can't have a team full of that kid, And so understanding that piece requires a lot of work and a lot of sleepless nights. Okay, thank you.